The Conjuring, 2013. Spooky scary house? Meet the Perrons, a down-on-their-luck family trying to make a fresh start in the middle of nowhere. But it's hard to make ends meet with 5 daughters on a single income in 1971. So while Mr. Perron is out working, Mrs. Perron attempts to whittle the family down to the national average with the help of an irate witch and her band of lonely lemures. Oh yeah, and the completely honest, caring, and wholly well-meaning paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren are there too.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Our Rating. This is the show where I get together with two of my friends. We take a movie franchise, break it down by movie, give it an overall score, and throw it up on the board to see where that franchise lands. This week, we're talking about The Conjuring, and I'm joined, as always, by Will and Brian. Brian, how are you doing this week?
I'm great, Dan. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. I'm actually really excited to talk about this one. Will, how are you?
Spooky scary. I don't watch a lot of scary movies, but I do enjoy some very much.
Very nice. Now, is this your first time watching this movie?
It is my first time fully viewing the movie. I have seen a scene here and there along the way. You know, it's 15 years old or something now. 20 years old? I don't know. It's too old. It's too old. I'm too old.
It's too old. It's 2013. What about you, Brian? Have you ever seen The Conjuring before?
I've seen parts of it, but I've never watched the whole movie. So this is my first time viewing the whole film. And yeah.
Very nice. I was talking to Will ahead of time, and it's like, I don't think I've seen this. I couldn't tell you like the beats or anything about this movie, but parts of it felt so familiar. And I'm not sure if it's just like I knew Ron Livingston and I knew Patrick Wilson, or if it was actually like I'd seen this and just forgot. I'm usually really, really good with movies I've seen, even if I don't remember the movie at all, at least remembering that like that box has been checked. I don't think I've ever seen this one. But there was a lot of imagery in this where I'm like, that's very familiar. So maybe I did, and I just forgot about it, which is a little surprising.
A large critique about the movie when it came out was that the trailer gave away a lot of like the jump scares and creepy moments in the movie. So maybe you're just remembering that. It's very possible.
That is actually not a bad point whatsoever. Now, this is based on a true story of the two, forgive me, the Warrens, I believe it is.
Yes, yeah.
Who are actual people that existed, as is the Perron family who lived in this house. And then my understanding is they met because of some paranormal activities, and that's kind of the extent of the truth to this story. And then everything after that is kind of Hollywoodized, right?
Yeah, I'd say even the characters, for the most part, were Hollywoodized.
That's totally fair. That's totally fair. I did read that they actually had one of the daughters, I can't remember which one, as a supervisor on the set of this movie. So she'd actually kind of go around and be like, I don't know what she was doing, though, because if everything supernatural was kind of made up, it sounds like the supernatural or the paranormal activities was like the house smelled bad every now and then, and there was some creaky noises, and then everything else they kind of just made up. So I'm not really sure what her role was. Maybe it's more of a to gauge if the actors were portraying the people properly, but
yeah, that would be my immediate assumption. I think the character or the person, their real life person, is Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter. She wrote 3 books about the happenings in this house at that time. And so I believe, yeah, they probably out of respect for the families had them on set and kind of guiding the actors' hands there a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've got a question out of left field for the both of you.
Go for it.
Do you guys believe in ghosts, in haunted houses, in the paranormal? Or is that something that you think is totally something that can be explored in the real world? Because I am a man of science, and I don't think that there are spirits or ghosts or any of that sort of thing. But I still love to be scared by these movies.
I'm going to take that one first. I would also consider myself a man of science. However, a big part of science is the acknowledgement that you don't know everything and that you are learning. Science literally, I believe, means knowledge. Like you are just gaining knowledge as you go. So while I wouldn't necessarily say that I believe in God, angels, demons, ghosts per se, I do believe that there's a wide range of things that happen in this world that we can't explain that could lead from paranormal activities. Now, do I believe that it is Satan taking over somebody's bodies? No, I do not believe that specifically. But I think there's a lot of things in this world that we have not figured out how to explain through science or religion or anything else at this point. And I don't write off ghosts entirely. I haven't had a paranormal activity or paranormal anything myself or to anybody specifically close to me. But it's hard for me to straight up say that no, it's not possible. What about you, Will?
Yeah, I'm similar. I am much of the belief that if I can't see it myself or experience it myself, it's hard for me to believe it. That being said, I feel people don't give the human imagination enough credit. And I have a saying, I don't know where I got it from. Maybe I made it up. I'm not afraid of the dark, but I'm afraid of what could be in the dark. And that's my imagination making things scary.
That's very fair. Ironically, Wonderful D says, explain that ghost behind you then. So in this room that I'm in right now, years ago, I was home by myself, standing right about here before the desk was here, looking at something, and I had the strongest feeling that there was somebody right behind me. And I had to like go and look like in other rooms to make sure, like, did the dog follow me in? Like, what was going on? Was the cat anywhere near me? Nobody. The cat was upstairs asleep. The dog was passed out. No kids were home. No wife was home. And that's probably the closest I've ever had to a paranormal experience. And that's obviously not a very paranormal anything. Like, that's not even much of a story. But that's like the most like, that felt weird that I've ever had.
So then is it safe to assume, Brian, you haven't had any paranormal encounters yourself?
Not a one. Never. Nothing that couldn't be explained.
When I was younger, in the house I grew up in, the laundry room was in the basement, and we were outside one summer evening, and I, for the life of me, knew everybody was outside doing their thing. I don't know, we were having a barbecue or what have you. And I swear to everything, somebody was downstairs, turned on the light, and it looked like there was somebody walking around in the basement, which was like an unfinished basement. So, but it was like a white curtain, like somewhat transparent. So it only looked like a shadow moving through. But I could never confirm that anybody was down there. So that's the closest thing I had personally, but I've heard a lot of different encounters from different people that I trust.
Yeah. I'm definitely not closed off to the idea of it. I just need more proof than what you normally get, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But anyways, that being said, I love scary. I don't love scary movies. I like this kind of scary movie. You can remember this time last year we did the Evil Dead franchise, and I was way harder on it than you two were, because the first three are really campy and the last two are just gory, and I just don't really enjoy that kind of a scary movie where it's just like, here's just a ton of blood. But this movie, with its jump scares and it's a bit more story based, I'm gonna say,
the tension building,
really worked for me. Now, I will also specify that I was sick this week, so I had chills for like 3 days in a row. So I don't know how many of the chills I was getting while watching this movie were from this movie or from the fever. But regardless, by the time this movie was done, I was exhausted. And I actually found this movie harder to watch than I was anticipating. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, but just because it was really starting to get to me.
Nice. I like scary movies that build tension and give you jump scares. I like them when they have characters and plots that you can connect with, things that you feel a connection with and get really into. And even though I don't believe in ghosts or demons or any of this sort of stuff that we're going to be talking about in this movie, I don't believe in ogres and elves either, but I can watch fantasy films. Same thing with science fiction, monsters and aliens and stuff. Well, I do think that aliens are likely possibility, but you get the point. I can put myself in this world and enjoy it for what it is, even though I don't believe that these things actually exist. So I have lots of fun with scary movies like this that build tension. And one of the things that this movie did, I thought, was create a space that could be built on. Maybe it needed a little bit more building in this movie, but there's a reason that this became a franchise. There's a lot of spin-offs from this. There's a lot of ways this could go, and I digged that. I loved going into Mr. Warren's kind of like closet basement thing with all the knickknacks in there and the Annabelle doll and all these things, and you're like, wow, there's a story behind every object in this room. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, because this movie starts off, like Conjuring is the first one, and then you've got the Nun and the Annabelle franchises that have kind of spun off from this one. And like, as you're saying, like, there's that entire room of gadgets of items that could all spin off into different movies if that's the way they wanted to go. I personally felt they were a little bit too heavy-handed with the Annabelle, like trying to kind of force
A little
that
bit.
in on
A
this
little bit.
one. Maybe that makes more sense if you've seen Annabelle, because I think the Order of the Universe, even though it's the first one made, I think none is canonically the first, and then Annabelle, and then this one. So you're kind of familiar with that. I'm gonna say character before you get here, but being just watching this one, it felt, knowing that there is an Annabelle movie out there, or a couple of Annabelle movies out there, like they were kind of cramming that in to this other movie that didn't really need an Annabelle doll in it. Like if this had been a standalone, like it originally was, that Annabelle scene is completely unnecessary. But knowing that, you're right, they're going to make a universe out of this, I think they've done like maybe the second best job. This is only the first movie I've seen, but they did a better job of starting that universe than like the DCEU did, or the Mummy did with like the monsters, the Universal Monsters franchise. Like none of those really spun out into anything. Yeah. Whereas the MCU took off, obviously, and this one took off pretty well. So like this movie was a hit, and it did spawn a lot of sequels and spin-offs. So no complaints there.
Will, what did you think this movie was about? Was it about the Warrens? Was it about the family and their haunted house?
Right.
Was it about the demons and the people who had been haunted and possessed in the house? I kind of felt like this movie lacked a specific direction and tried to cover a lot of bases.
I agree with that. I do think at its heart, it's about this family that moved into this house and their experience. But unfortunately, I agree, it was a little bit bloated because they wanted backstory of the Warrens, and they needed the backstory of the ghosts in the house, which I thought there was too many ghosts in the house, and all of these things. Don't get me wrong, I did appreciate that they made the Warrens feel like they weren't just charlatans trying to take people, and they are actually honestly trying to help people, saying, "Oh, this is just the pipe from the steam creaking the boards. It's not a ghost." And then you see, oh, this is a real ghost. And, you know, they tried to make them look legit, which I think most of their things have been disproven now anyway. But it makes for a good setup for lots of ghost stories, which people tend to like.
Yeah, I always, whenever a movie says it's based on a true story, I always take that with a pretty large grain of salt anyways. So like I wasn't going into this expecting historical accuracy whatsoever, but I liked the Warrens characters in this movie. And I don't know that I agree with the idea that it felt too bloated. Like I thought that it all actually worked out pretty well. The Annabelle section, as I mentioned, maybe that was a little bit unnecessary in this movie, but the characters all worked for me. Did you asked the question, Brian, did you have an issue with figuring out what exactly this movie was about or who it was supposed to be focusing on?
No, actually, they did a good job with the writing to incorporate so much, but I really felt like they bit off a lot, and they maybe had a little trouble chewing it all. But I liked that, like Will mentioned, that the house had too many ghosts. I felt that the house had the right amount of ghosts. We just didn't have enough story time to incorporate it all, especially when they were doing backstory to the Warrens, and you had, you know, some other things going on in this, like the Annabelle thing, which they definitely pushed the Annabelle thing a little too much. I mean, we know why now, but I was watching this movie and I was like, come on, save some for the other film. I know it's out there. Like it just seemed like a lot. So no, it had a lot. And they had some trouble, but I appreciate the attempt, and I thought they did a decent job of incorporating so much into this. And I, too, did like the Warrens also. I like that they weren't charlatans. I really like that they were debunking as much as they possibly could.
Yeah.
And I think you have to go that route if you want to make a cinematic universe out of this, right? Like, they're the ones you're going to follow throughout of all these interesting stories. So
at least in the Conjuring movies, if not the others.
Exactly. You have to be able to, like, you have to love watching them, right?
One thing I didn't understand was they say, like, of all the things that happened to the Warrens, this was the scariest. And then it kind of felt like, well, Annabelle looked like that was the scariest. And then there was this exorcism that took a big piece of her, right? Was that the scariest? Which one was it? Like
that's also something I was wondering, like, she's having such a hard time as it is. How are we going to get 3 more movies out of her? Like, she's going to be just a ragged at the end of this.
Well, and in this movie, correct me if I'm wrong, nobody dies except for the dog. So if this is the scariest they get,
Sure.
okay, like where are we going from here? And I'm sure that's
Yeah.
just a throwaway line they're going to regret having said. Now, I will point out, you said a second ago there's too many ghosts in this movie. As far as I can tell, and I stole this directly from a website, so apologies if it's wrong. There were 8 generations of families that lived and died in the house before the Perrons moved in. Andrew Perron suggested that some of the spirits from the families never left. Deaths included 2 documented suicides, a poisoning, the sexual assault and murder of an 11-year-old girl, 2 drownings, and 4 men who froze to death. Most deaths occurred within the Arnold family, from which the Bathsheba Sherman was a descendant from, who is like the main ghost in this movie. I actually liked that you saw a bunch of other ghosts, but just like brief flickets of them. Like they weren't the main antagonist by any stretch. It was just showing you like, no, this house has been through some crap. Like it has seen some stuff. I don't know.
I'm okay with
that
that
works
too.
for me.
I was great with the history of it all, but like you only get the Walker, which was the mom of the Rory ghost, like once or twice, very brief, being like, she made me do it. It was just a little too little from her that I wasn't excited when I saw her. I was like, oh, what are you doing here? You don't really do anything. Whereas the Rory ghost was like pretty well established, playing games and wanting to like have fun with these people. Fun in quotation marks. And then the witch, obviously, who wants to possess and murder all the children. So like their backstories were fleshed out enough that you could care. Whereas the other ones that got brief appearances could have just been more in the history books that we learned about from readings and not having a larger piece of the movie, because it's kind of a long movie for a scary movie.
Which is fair, but I kind of liked that. It's kind of the Jaws thing, right? The less you see of the monster, the scarier it is. So this is a nice way of bringing creep factor in and having a couple of jump scares that aren't just showing you Bathsheba over and over and over again. Like here's a different little kid. Here's a different woman with a knife. Here's a different hanging ghost. Like it added a little bit of variety to it, as opposed to just always being the same creepy
It kept me
thing in the dark.
confused, is what it did. I
That's
did
fair.
not know what was going on until she comes out and she goes, she's possessing the mothers to kill the children. And even then I had to like think about it for a while and watch for a little bit and be like, oh, there's like a whole bunch of ghosts in here. And they're all because this demon or witch was possessing people and killing them over and over and over again, creating all these horrific stories. And then I finally got it. It took me a while because there was just so much going on.
Which is fair. Now, out of curiosity, you've got mothers killing daughters or mothers killing kids. You've got 4 daughters in this movie. Correct me if I'm wrong, you both just have sons, right?
Yep.
Correct.
So, as a father of 3 daughters, I was wondering if that was also a reason why this movie was hitting me in quite the way that it is. The way that I generally watch movies is I will find a character that I like and I will latch onto them, and I'll usually subconsciously put myself in their shoes, kind of a what would you do moment. So obviously Ron Livingston, the dad in this family, was the one that I subconsciously attached to. And trying to keep your wife and your daughters safe from something you couldn't possibly understand is kind of terrifying. Like there are my whether I believe in ghosts or not, my imagination knows no bounds. So watching this movie from that perspective, I did find myself engaging with it in a much more real way than I ever did with, like, say, Evil Dead or the remakes and stuff like that. So, like, from a creepy standpoint, this movie worked really, really well for me.
I had a bit of a connection there with, he was a long haul truck driver and he would be away from his home for a while. And that was the connection that I made through the father. Not so much the daughters. I just kept thinking, wow, there's a lot of females in this movie and only 2 dudes. And that was fine. I didn't have a problem with that at all, actually. That was just one of my first thoughts. And then later I didn't even notice. But him being a long haul truck driver, I thought about, man, there's been times when stuff has gone down at my home and I'm 300 miles away and can't do anything about it. Now, they didn't really showcase that, but he did come home just as some shit was going down and he's running in like, somebody tell me what's going on. And he doesn't know and he's panicking. So it added to the tension. So there was that for me.
They mentioned that he was going to be going to Florida, I think, for a run. And then if that was him coming back from that Florida run, they really felt like they missed an opportunity there where like you could have had a scene where something really awful is happening and he's not there to see it. Maybe it's before anything else happens and he's kind of doing that like, are you sure? Like what's going on? Like maybe it almost gives a bit of distrust between the husband and wife.
Him
like,
on
what
the
are you doing
phone
to my
hearing
kid?
screaming in the background and doesn't know what's going on. That would be terrifying, you know?
Absolutely.
When you're helpless to do anything about it. You just hear horrible things happening. That would have been very scary. They didn't do any of that with him. I think that was a missed opportunity. They were focused on other things. And that's okay because they did land a lot of other opportunities, some really good jump scares where they built tension and caught you off guard. However, there were a lot of really just lame jump scares where it was just a loud bang to get you to jump. Did you guys feel that?
I actually felt the opposite. I felt this movie went out of its way not to do as many jump scares as a lot of modern movies do, and that it would instead build the tension of like, there's somebody behind the door. I see somebody behind the door, and it's just darkness, and the person's just like standing there, and then nothing really happens. Whereas like
great scene, by the way, that was a great scene.
Yeah, I think a lot of other like modern horror movies have gone so reliant on just jump scare from here, jump scare, it's just the cat, jump scare, you know, the light bulb just went out, which was in this movie, but it wasn't for a jump scare, I don't think. And I think they set this up more about the atmosphere and tension leading to the scares more than jump scares in recent history for myself anyway.
Yeah, I think I agree with Will on that. It felt like they did a great job of really building up the tension to the point where when the jump scare happened, it was a legitimate jump scare as opposed to a completely out of left field jump scare. For me, at least. Like in the room, the scene in the bedroom where she's looking under the bed and the camera's kind of changing its position, like almost disorienting you in the same way she's disoriented. And then like she's screaming like, there's somebody behind you, there's somebody behind you. And the sister's looking like, there's nothing here. Like, what are you talking about? It takes a while until that door slams and you get the not relief, but like something actually happens. Like it's building up that moment.
Conclusion to that.
Yeah. And there's a couple of scenes like that. The one, I guess, is maybe like the stairwell when all the pictures fall off. Like that's kind of just a random loud noise thing. But is that the scene? Is that where she's running around the house at night? She's by herself and she's just like, what is going on? She just hears something.
I think she hears giggling or something or clapping and she thinks the kids are up. So she goes and checks it out. And then all these things fall and she's like freaked out.
I think that they had a wide variety of tension building through sound, through visual effects, through the unknown. Like when the hands come out of the closet and clap she's got her blindfold on and I was losing it. I was just freaked out because I knew that wasn't her kid, you know, and then there's nobody there and her kid comes in. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. But I felt there were a couple of times when they did have just some kind of loud bangs when you're walking through the quiet house. And I just felt like they showed that they had the chops to do some really great scary scenes, that handful of just loud bangs didn't need to be there, or they could have done a little bit better job. I don't think it took away from it. I think it was just, there were some better ones in the movie than some was all.
I'm just going to touch on this. We were talking about the building of tension and whatnot. I think the sound design in this film was done incredibly well, very purposeful, not only in the moments where you're building up the tension to get to one of those something scary is happening, but also in the silence in some of the scenes, which is so much more uninviting, where it's just like, no, you are not supposed to be here right now. Like how deathly quiet some of the scenes were, really also worked in its favor. But even when there was not very much actual music in this movie. The only scene I can think of is when they're moving in and they're playing Time of the Season, I think, by the Zombies.
Yeah,
is that the right song?
I think that's right, yeah.
And even that song, correct me if I don't know, I'm not like a huge classic movie here. Like there's just something mildly sinister about that song, despite the fact that it is a fairly innocent song. Like something in the way he's singing it or the tone of it or something just comes across even a little bit creepy, even though it's perfectly innocent and it's a radio song. I thought that was such a brilliant choice for that scene. Because you know, like you're watching this movie because it's a horror movie. You know there's something wrong with the house. They have no clue. And even just having that in the background is just like, there was something really smart about that for me. I don't know. Maybe that's just a me thing. Maybe I'm the only one that sees that song in that way. But there was just something about it that's like, this is creepy while still being like a mainstream radio hit.
I don't think you're wrong. I think there's something about songs in minor that feel that way a little bit more. And I'm pretty sure that song plays in a minor chord. So
This movie had excellent sound, and gonna give something away here. I will recommend that people watch this. It's the first of a franchise, so it's probably gonna be pretty good, right? If you do watch this for the first time, I recommend you do like what I did, and you wear headphones or earbuds when you watch it, because this movie does have excellent sound. And when you can hear clapping or crying baby or something really creepy, and you can hear it off in the distance with your headphones, it's really good. Unless you have a great sound system in your living room, and I hope you do. But yeah, I would go with headphones when you watch this movie, because it definitely worked well for me. The sound, amazing. Cinematography wasn't for me. Dan, you mentioned the rotating cameras sometimes when they were looking under the bed. Those, whenever they have a rotating camera that does like 180 or 360 or any kind of rotation, I never like it. That's just me. They were trying to make the viewer feel confused, discombobulated, whatever. And it worked for sure. I just don't like that effect myself. There were also some really weird zooms. Did you see some of those where like they zoom to the little girl playing by the beach, and it is a long angle shot, and it is like, it's got to be like 18 seconds of zooming out to see her playing on the beach. And they do a couple more like that where they just see these really long zoom in shots, and they were just weird. Not even bad. They were just weird, I guess. And they kind of took me out of it. So cinematography, they took some shots that I didn't like. What did you guys think about that?
To me, it harkens back to older horror movies. And that's kind of how I felt the director handled this. Actually, I think I saw some write-up somewhere that he wanted to harken back to the Amityville or, the Hitchcock, where they are longer lingering scenes and shots. So I didn't mind that as well. I feel like the whole movie has a different pacing, and it is a throwback to like the horror movies of old. And so it didn't bother me. It just kind of was like the stylistic choice they made.
I don't know that I recognize the scene you're describing, the really long zoom in or zoom out. Like I can picture the girl on the beach, but I guess it didn't register for me as being a negative because I can't quite grasp that. I also don't necessarily love like the camera flipping and turning and stuff like that when it's done for no reason. Like I think there's movies like Fast and the Furious kind of thing where like the cars are coming at the screen and then like the camera will kind of do this. And then it's looking at them going the other way. I'm like, well,
we'll get to that.
Silly.
We'll get to that.
No, I know, but like when it's just done for no reason. Whereas like this movie, it felt like there was a specific reason. Like she's looking under the bed, so she's upside down, so the camera's kind of turning, and then she comes back up. It's a dark room. She's tired.
Like it totally made sense to me. Whether the film,
I agree that I don't love it, but it made sense in the film. So like I don't take it as a negative because I get what they're going for.
I'm digging deep on negatives here.
Sure.
To be honest, I love this film. I had a lot of fun watching this film. I'm trying to trash it, but I'm pulling at some pretty mild threads here.
So here's the one thing that I didn't get, and maybe they explained it and I just totally missed it. Near, I don't know, the last third of the movie when they're like bringing in all the equipment and stuff like that, they've got their technicians, they've got the Warrens, they've got the family who's not allowed to leave. Why do they have a sheriff who doesn't believe in this? What was the point of bringing the police in?
And a witness, like a neutral witness, maybe.
So if somebody dies, they've at least got like, well, no, like this wasn't a murder, this was a paranormal thing.
Yeah, I think it might be an official lawman to ensure that everything's above board.
That's what I felt, is just authenticity. And I thought that was a great idea from the Warrens' perspective. Hey, let's bring an officer of the law here so that he can vouch that we're not taking these people to the cleaners.
And just leave his shotgun lying around.
Yeah. The fact that he was a non-believer, I think, was just for fun story bits,
Although it would make sense if you want to corroborate your supernatural experience, bringing in someone who doesn't believe, like somebody like me from the beginning. If you can convince me that there's ghosts in the house, then there are ghosts in the house,
Yeah.
So I think I think it's a good idea. I didn't even question that until you brought it up just now, Dan, but I just thought that's what it was for. It was his corroboration and security.
And like that makes sense. I just missed it if they described that in any way. They're just all of a sudden like, oh, and there's a cop here. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't know.
he's going
I
to
don't know if
arrest
they.
Bethesda? Like, what's going on here?
Exactly. I don't think they downright said, "Hey, this is why the cops here," just so you guys know. I think they were just like, "This is our routine. This is what we do." So my least favorite part, and it's not a huge standout. I don't think I love this movie as much as Run in general, but that's fine. But my biggest standout for me was the photograph of the Perrons at the beach. Looked so photoshopped, like the clouds in the background looked so fake, and they like bring this photo up multiple times, and it just bothered me. They just stuck out like a sore thumb. Like they put on all this great practical effects throughout the movie, which I also appreciated. They minimized the usage of CGI when they needed to make really good effect of it, but they did a lot of practical effects and makeup effects and things like that as well. And this photograph, this framed photo of the family was just so botched in my mind. I couldn't get around it. It just bothered me for so long. It just took me out of everything they were building up because everything else fit the tone and the themes and the throwback to the 70s. And that all just kind of fit nicely, except for that. It just looked like a Windows 99 background on your desktop, and I just hated it.
They showed sequences where the family was running on the beach. Like they filmed at the beach. Why couldn't they get a good looking photo for that?
It's so weird, right? Did you notice it standing out as well?
I noticed the picture too. I also didn't like how Mrs. Warren, I forget her name, she like bumps into her and has like a vision of them at the beach, right? And stuff.
Yeah.
And that felt a little cheesy to me. Apparently she's supposed to have psychic abilities and they wanted to have that in the story and everything. They could have left all that out about her having like visions and feelings and stuff like that. It was almost one more thing in this movie that didn't fit, but that'll probably develop in future movies, I'm hoping. And have a little bit more space to breathe. I just felt like there was one of those things that they incorporated into this film that they didn't do a good job of incorporating it. It just felt like one more list of things that I'm supposed to be keeping track of. We've got multiple ghosts and a demon/witch and the haunted house. Then you've got the Warrens and all their trophies. And let's not forget Annabelle. We're going to ram that down your throat too. And then it was like, oh, and she, got a chunk of her taken when she was doing this exorcism and she bumps into people and pictures them at the beach. It was a little bit much. One more thing. So that was kind of my biggest qualm with this movie is that it did try to tackle so many items in this. But like I also said, it did lay the groundwork for the opportunity for some world building. And I'm really hoping that that's what happens in future movies in this franchise. I don't know. I haven't seen any of it, but I'm hoping that they build on all this stuff that they tried to include in this film and hopefully maybe tackle like one or two things at a time instead of cramming quite so much into this.
I agree. I think because this was the introduction, you needed to get the Warrens in there because they are going to be the connecting thread throughout.
I almost felt it was more about the Warrens than anything else, to tell you the truth.
Well, I think that was the part of the problem of the balancing of this telling. But they did it specifically because if they're like, hey, if we have a home run here, we've got oodles of stories Lorraine will let us use at a price to get this franchise just rocking, right? And I don't know if you guys know this or not.
It worked.
Yeah, it worked. Obviously, it's one of the highest grossing horror movie franchises of all time. There's 10 or so movies within the spin-offs and everything. So it's huge. But in this movie specifically, a little trivia is when Mrs. Perron goes to the lecture hall to meet up with the Warrens. Lorraine Warren is actually in the front row of the lecture hall. A little cameo appearance there. She was on set throughout kind of the movie being made as well. So
cool.
I'd heard she was on set. I didn't realize she's actually in the film. But that's very cool.
Yeah. Obviously not in all of the movies because I think she passed in 2016 or something.
Okay. Yeah, horror movies are very easy to make money off of because you can make them for quite cheap. So this movie only cost $20 million and raised $320 million, which is an incredible payoff for what it was. So yeah, of course they made quite a few off this one and sequels and stuff like that. And like Annabelle, like it's a doll. You know what I mean? You just make a couple of them, throw them around. Like, because what did Annabelle really do in this movie? It just sat there. Like you just made a creepy doll, laid it in the hallway, played some sad music, and it's just like, oh man, that's really creepy. Like super easy to do. Does not require a whole lot of special effects or anything. Most of it's in your mind. Most of what makes scary movies so good is that you are the one doing most of the legwork in your own mind's eye, and I think it's brilliant. So
you hear the banging, and then you open the door, and it's just a doll laying on the ground.
Right.
But you're thinking about what that doll was doing when the door was closed, and that's the scary part. Yeah.
Right. There's a note slid under the door.
Toy Story all over again. Stop. I can't.
Yeah.
We'll get to that franchise too.
We'll get there. But like honestly, one of those scenes is just like a note goes under the door, and I can't remember what it says. Whatever like she had written on the wall. Miss me. That's it. That's all you need. It's a crumpled note. My daughter could do that.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like so easy to do.
Hey, I have a quick question.
Yeah, go for it.
What exactly was conjured in this movie? I never saw anything conjured. This was a possession or a haunting, but never a conjuring. They don't even conjure the spirit other than they did set out the crucifixes to piss them off so they could get some pictures of it.
The closest thing was the little mirror toy. Because the little girl said when you wind it, you conjure the image in the mirror. I think that's the closest thing to the Conjuring.
I guess. I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting choice. I do like the title. It just doesn't seem to have a connection to what we actually watched.
So what I would have described Conjuring as, you're right. I just had to look it up really quickly just in case. Can refer to the act of performing magic tricks or such as illusions that magicians do. So I wonder if like what the ghost was doing was the conjuring as opposed to actually conjuring a spirit. Because like I would think conjuring being like summoning something.
Or
like, that's what I think of.
Or if they were trying to allude to that the Warrens were faking this and it was a hoax. And then you go into this movie and you realize right off the bat, these people are legit. They're not going to conjure anything. This is real. It's not a conjuring is what it is.
Well, the other is like imploring somebody to do something, and the witch was imploring all these people to murder their families, right?
Okay.
So that also applies, I think. So I don't know.
If you like what we do and you want to help support us, consider joining our Patreon. There's a link down below. Huge shout out to our executive producers, Real Bubba Hotep and Dino. Thank you so much. As well as our head writer, Elder JM990. Next week is going to be our Patreon pick, and we're going to be watching A Fish Called Wanda. Join us there.
Okay, so I enjoyed this movie a lot. I did. I didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, and I just felt that this was a solid, scary movie. They did a lot of it right. I felt that there was a lot in this movie, as I've said many times, and I felt like maybe they tried to put a few too many things in. And so sometimes it didn't hit, but you know what? Most of the time it hit perfectly, and I enjoyed all of the scares, all of the storytelling. I liked most of the characters. There were some child actors in this that were terrible. The younger they were, the worse they got for me, to tell you the truth. The little girl who saw the person in the dark, she was great. She was one of the younger ones. She did a great job. But some of the child actors weren't so amazing, but that's just me. The dialogue in this movie kind of surprised me. And I really liked the dialogue in this because mostly the Warrens were so eloquent and well-spoken, and they weren't charlatans. They were the real deal, and they were genuinely trying to help people. And even the husband was trying to help his wife by holding her back a lot. And there was that dynamic there that was interesting. You had the father of all these girls and his wife who is becoming possessed and getting the bruises and looking marks. They look like burns to me, but they're supposed to be bruises, I guess. There was very interesting stories all around. And then you had layers of ghosts and possessions and all kinds of stuff. So lots of interesting things going on that made me think and really pay attention. And I enjoyed my time in this movie. That's why I'm giving this one a 77 out of 100. I think maybe my only qualm with this was that they maybe tried to put in a little too much, and it just felt like it was bursting at the seams. But we have this huge franchise because of it, and hopefully all that overflow of stuff is going to become something good. Hopefully, I'm optimistic for the future.
All right, similar to Brian, I also had a really good time watching this. I mentioned earlier I was sick while I was watching it, so I had chills the entire movie. I couldn't quite tell you how many of them were from the movie, how many of them were the fever. I'm not 100% sure on that one. But again, I was sucked into this one, being a father of daughters, putting myself in Ron Livingston's shoes, trying to imagine what I would do in that situation, and finding out at one point where the demon has latched onto them, so they can't even run away from the house. They are forced to deal with this. Really put me in a tough situation on that, where I'm like, I had a hard time watching this because I enjoyed it and I liked everything they were doing, but it was also legitimately kind of freaking me out. I've said before, I'm not a big horror movie fan, but for horror movies, this kind of a ghost story is the kind that I prefer, as opposed to like the slasher or the gory movies of like Saw or Evil Dead, stuff like that. So this one I thought was a lot of fun. The sound effects in this one, the songs they played, as we mentioned, I think were all pretty perfectly done, building that tension so expertly. The cinematography I actually really liked. The look of this house, making it not only look like something out of the 70s, I believe it was supposed to, but it also actually, the movie felt kind of like an older movie, which I thought was really smartly done. The acting, I didn't have a problem with the actors in this movie. I thought all the little kids actually did a pretty good job of showing how scared they were. They weren't given a ton to do outside of being scared, but being a family, being afraid, I thought they did a good job. And I thought the Warrens, I really enjoyed it. I'm actually pretty happy that that's the direction this franchise is going to go, so we can stick with them as they go through other cases. I think that's actually a really smart way to go. We're going to leave the Perrons behind and move on to other things. The plot was pretty basic. It's just kind of a haunted house story, but they did it in a really solid way that kept me engaged the entire time. So I'm not dinging it for that, despite the fact that there was nothing truly original about this. It was just a ghost story, but it was a very well done ghost story. I really enjoyed my time with this one. Once, I don't think this is a movie I'm going to be going back to often or ever again. This is not going to be an every Halloween watch for me, but as a one-time viewing, this scared me. I enjoyed it. I'm curious to see where it goes, and I'm actually looking forward to The Conjuring 2. I gave this one an 82. I was really happy with it. I really enjoyed it.
Well, I'm going to drop the score. But before I do, I just want to mention, we didn't even talk about James Wan, the director of this movie, who's known for such classics as Saw, Insidious, Furious 7, which is coming up in episode 187, and Aquaman, the new Aquaman movies. He directed both of those, I believe. So right there and then, I'm hit and miss on this director. I don't watch, I think I saw the first Saw movie and it was just too much gore fest. And I definitely appreciate that he didn't go for gore in this movie. In fact, this was a rated R movie pretty much strictly for scariness, because there's not a lot of blood and gore and violence. There's not a lot of like sexual nature. It's talked about a little bit, but there's not a lot on the screen. So I do appreciate that this was a rated R movie solely because of the creepy vibe that it gave off. And I do believe James Wan is talented enough to throw back to those classic scary movies, those haunted house stories, and did a great job of revitalizing those classics. Unfortunately, like Dan mentioned, the story itself is a little played. It's not really that original, and it did feel to me like they did jam a lot into this movie. The runtime was a little too long. They could have trimmed it up to make it a really want to see more type of movie. But instead, it kind of felt to me like they're just wanting to set up a franchise movie, which kind of takes me out a little bit. Aside from that, I think my favorite character was Mrs. Perron. I think the actress did a wonderful job portraying, getting possessed. I enjoyed all of her scenes. But on the opposite side of the coin, I really didn't like the dad character at all. I felt he was like a real wet blanket. His only job was to leave the house just so something could happen and he could come back and be like, what's going on? I just didn't. And then at the end of the movie, like, save the day by being like, only you can break her mind of the witch's curse by telling her how good she is. I was like, what? She could do it herself. She's a strong female lead. But whatever, it is what it is. Overall, it had some good fun scares. So if you're into scary movies for that reason, check this one out. And I'm sure the others will fall into place. They made 4 of them, so they must be doing something right. This is a 70 for me. It's like an okay scary movie that I don't regret watching, but definitely not in my favorites.
70's not bad. Like you're
No,
saying,
I
they dropped
know.
the score, but like that's relatively in line. That's not.
No, I enjoyed it for what it was. I just don't think it was like when it came out. It seemed to be like this. Whoa, this is the horror movie of all horror movies. We're back, baby. And to me, I was like, it's okay.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't think it really did anything new. you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
It did things well, but it didn't
Yes.
do anything new.
Mhm.
I will say this, though I don't plan on ever watching The Conjuring again, I'm looking forward to The Conjuring 2,
Agreed.
and I think I will check out The Nun and maybe Annabelle.
Wow.
I've never seen them, and I think I'll check them out.
So I do believe all of those are franchises now. Like I think there are 2 nuns. I think there are like
if they might
3
appear on our
Annabelles.
list, then I'll just wait and be a patient boy.
I'm just saying, like we could do the whole Conjuring universe eventually. as separate franchises. All right. So our new poster, and this is becoming a tradition recently, where the first movie in the franchise jumps super high, right to the second in the list, right under the Dollars trilogy at 76. And then we'll add another movie to it, and it'll probably drop significantly. Then another movie to it, it'll probably drop significantly. Now, I don't know the quality of the Conjuring franchise, so maybe it won't. Maybe it'll be able to hold up near the top. They've made like 10 of them, so they must be doing something. But I don't know much about the lineage of this franchise, if it like drops off a cliff or if it stays pretty high up there. But what do you guys think of this one right near the top like that after one film?
Again, to me, there's a reason they made it a franchise, right? They start with a fairly strong first outing, and that leads to greedy money wanters lining their pockets. And so typically the quality tends to dip. I'm always hopeful that it won't, but it's very rare that we get that in our franchises.
I'm a little surprised that I wasn't the highest score on this one. I thought for sure that mine was going to be the highest score of the 3 of us, and so it landing as high as it did kind of surprises me. But I have high hopes for this. I'm very optimistic, and I'm hoping that this will not fall below Jurassic Park. I do think that after we get 3 more films onto this, I think it's going to be in the Predator Aliens range.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
I am very curious how the next one's going to go because, as I mentioned multiple times, the high score I have for this one might be a fever dream. Like it might have just been a combination of a bunch of things hitting me, and I'm really curious how the next one's going to fare from a pure standpoint.
Dan, you've been doing this for over a year. Believe in yourself, buddy.
I'm also excited.
I just mean, was my body being tricked into thinking it was more scared than it was because I had chills for so much of it?
Right.
Or was I actually as scared as I think I was? That's more what I meant than I didn't trust my actual rating.
Sometimes place and time just affects a movie, and that's fine. Like you'll still have that memory, whether it's the same or not on the next viewing. You'll have that memory of really like enjoying it. So I don't think it matters.
Fair enough. Our back page is starting to fill up nicely with a couple of stinkers.
Trash.
So what's the next one to go? Venom, I think, right? Yeah, Venom is the next one to get knocked off the front page. With what's the next franchise we're doing?
Bad rubbish.
I guess Hocus Pocus is the next franchise to come out. So we'll see if that can beat a 55 and knock Venom out of here.
Maybe. There's only 2 movies, and a lot of people are very hot and cold on those 2 movies.
Yeah. Well, some of us even maybe. So we'll see how that goes.
I'm thrilled that Dan, the vocally non-horror movie watching person, gave this the high score. I thought that was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Well, and it's maybe because I just don't watch that many horror movies, right? Like it maybe is like even I thought this was kind of played out, but maybe I didn't think it was as played out as you because it's like, oh look, another haunted house. This is my 3rd time watching this, and you're like, this is my 90th time watching this. So we'll see.
I had a much harder time comparing this to other horror movies with my grade. I actually felt, and I do this a lot sometimes, I just generalize the film. I know, Will, you try and keep it specifically in its category, but for me,
Somewhat.
this one was kind of just like, I felt I liked it more than other movies or less than other movies, not in the same genre. But as I start thinking about it critically, comparing it to other scary films, and you go back and you look at some of the classics and stuff like that, I maybe get a little bit more critical. I don't think it actually changes my score much. But for me, I kind of just looked at it as a movie against other movies.
The biggest one where that comes into play for me is an enjoyment. Do I enjoy this movie as much as I would enjoy a smart drama? Not even close. But compared to other horror movies, I enjoyed it quite a lot. So like that's the biggest one where it changes. Whereas like sound, acting, plot, cinematography, all those things are pretty standard, constant across the board.
Right.
Where enjoyment's the one that can kind of sway the most.
Yeah.
Because like would I put this up as high as like I think in my enjoyment got wherever my list is.
You really enjoyed Axel Foley. I know that.
Yeah, so much. So my enjoyment on this was an 80, which is like a pretty high score, saying that I really like this.
Yeah,
but it's also something that I would straight up say, I'll watch this once. Like this was a first time and last time watching of
But here's
this,
the thing with scary movies, you know what's coming, and so you're not scared. The point of the scary movie is that you don't know what's behind the door. You don't know what's making that sound. But when you've already seen the film, you do know you lose a lot of that scare to it. Now, watching it for a second time with someone who hasn't watched it might be enjoyable because you get to see their reaction to it.
Yeah.
So that could be kind of fun. But for me, I don't want to watch it a second time either. And I gave this one a really a decent score. I have no desire to see it again, but that's how it is for all scary movies for me, aside from maybe Evil Dead.
All right, that's our rating of The Conjuring, but what's yours? Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. We record this live over at twitch.tv/The Mongoolie Show every Thursday night, so you can head over there and hit the follow button, or if you made it this far in the video, hit like and subscribe so that I see you in the next one.